And we are live. Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome once again to Satsang. And so good to be here with you all. Um, so really wonderful. I was invited to start sharing Satsang with a group called the Enlightened uh, World Network. Sorry, the Enlightened World Network, and they have a page on Facebook. I did an interview with Dr. Ruth Anderson, who's the founder of it and heads it up. And because this platform I use, StreamYard, is capable of streaming the video to multiple platforms simultaneously, I was able to simply hook up to them as well. And actually, if any of you folks from the Enlightened Network are here, we have tried it out, but you know how technology is. So hopefully, it's working, and it's got a little checkbox that says it is. So those of you who are new on Facebook, you'll see at the top where the live video is. You'll see at the top there's a link. And that gives StreamYard permission to get your name. So if you leave a comment, I will actually see it here. And you have a question. You don't have to. It'll just say Facebook user. So you can remain anonymous if you so wish. But I'd certainly like to know who you are, where you're watching from. If this is your first time visiting Satsang or visiting any of the things that I do, but this is kind of the heart and soul of it. So since oh, there she is. So yes, good. That's Ruth, everyone, who has just left that comment. So I know the technology is smiling on us today, which is really good news. So those of you who are perhaps brand new to Satsang, to this approach to spirituality, there's no process, there's no practice, there's not really even a teaching, in the sense that there's knowledge here to be gained. Non-dual inquiry, non-dual spirituality is simply about looking at yourself, right? Directly at yourself, with no intermediary, no intercessor, no priest in between or guru, no teaching in between. Right? All the teaching is actually pointing, right? Helping you move past your assumptions that you have about yourself, which we all have and have had right from the beginning. Past those assumptions, which have literally determined the quality and quantity of your life. Whatever I believe about myself, my sense of identity, my nervous system, my energy will conform itself to that idea. And it will then appear to me that that's who I really am. And so all the evidence and feedback will be confirming to you, this is who you are. And so you can't look to the evidence. The teaching you receive will be based on that being who you are. Right? But if that's not who you are, something from somewhere else has to kind of come in and knock on your inside door and invite you to take a deep and sober look at who you are, which means questioning our assumptions, which can be, which takes a bit of courage. But of course, that will naturally begin to drop the container that we've been stuck in. When you see that something isn't true, that you've been believing is true, You don't have to let go of it. You don't need a process to let go of it. Once you see it, it's like once you knew 2 plus 2 equals 4, you were never ever again fooled by 3, by it equaling 3 or 5 or 8.7. You became impervious to that. And we can, I'm sure you've heard lots of spiritual teachers and lots of teachers of various ilk saying you're actually a divine being, you're unlimited, and you're infinite. And it's actually true. But simply because of the way we've been conditioned, the way we've been taught to think and feel about ourselves, taught about, keep staying in place and don't be too big for your britches and all sorts of little phrases like that to keep you contained. There's actually there's layers and layers of identification and the fear that goes with it, and sometimes arrogance, that keeps you from actually doing that, actually discovering the magnificence, because deep down inside, there's a fear in all of us that if I really do find out who I am, I'm not going to like me. I'm going to find out that I really am this creepy, distorted, stupid being I've been afraid of that I might be. So it doesn't matter how much somebody tells you, oh yeah, don't worry about it. You're infinite. You're going to love it. It's great. We have to discover it ourselves. And in order to do that, we have to actually go through all of those fears. Those fears are what are depicted in mythology as the dragon, the walls of a cave, an ogre. There's a Kerberos, the 3-headed dog that guards the gates of Hades. Hell itself is a metaphor for this, to actually have to walk through hell, right? Because that's the path to heaven. Now, the word satsang arises. It's a beautiful word in Sanskrit. It's a conjunction of 2 words, sat and sang. Sat in Sanskrit means truth, but not just intellectual truth. It also means being. It means the truth of your existence, that your existence and truth are one. And sang means communion, community, like in the Buddhist Sangha. The Sangha is basically the equivalent of a church group, right? Or a community, but it's a community of those dedicated to self-discovery. And you put those together, and what you get is a communion or an association with your highest truth. There's no real teacher in satsang. the guys who or woman who is sitting up in front of the room answering questions, both the questions and the answers are not coming from them. They're coming from you. And the true teacher, the true guru, will always point you back to you. It will never be a dispensation of knowledge. It will always be an invitation to look for yourself, to discover who you really are. And that discovery will actually be a remembering. How will you know? How would you know who you really are if you saw it? Well, do you recognize yourself when you see yourself in a mirror? It's the recognition of who you really are, and not who you think you are. In Buddhism, they have this wonderful phrase called the great doubt. Great doubt. Doubt everything that can possibly be doubted. And that's all of your experiences. Doubt your memories because they're feeble. Doubt your fears. Doubt your aspirations and desires. Doubt everything. Doubt the existence of. Doubt it all. You're not who you think you are. If you can just let in the doubt that I may not be who I think I am, you have opened the door to the ultimate awakening. They say in Buddhism, great doubt, great enlightenment. Small doubt, small enlightenment. No doubt, no enlightenment. And you can verify that for yourself. When I know something, I even have some pride in my knowledge, am I open? Am I willing to listen to somebody else's point of view? Am I willing to take anything in at all? When I know something, I'm stuck. That's why it was, I think it was Aristotle, Plato, who was regarded as the wisest man alive, and he said, "I'm the wisest man because I know nothing." It's all relative knowledge, but when we're talking about ourselves, right? It's not just relative knowledge. It's the knowledge of yourself. Who are you really? And just start as we kind of jump in here today. For those, especially those of you who are brand new, as we just starting to just have the inner spaciousness of doubt, because that's what it is. The mind gets very nervous, right? I mean, when it doesn't know something, it wants to know something. But just let in that the possibility that you are not what you think you are, that you are way, way inconceivably more than the ideas you're holding of yourself. Maybe even more than any idea you could ever hold of yourself. And if you're willing to do that, you are in satsang. It doesn't have to be, 3 p.m. Eastern time or 8 p.m. UTC, right, to be in satsang. The moment you doubt who you think you are and begin to look for yourself to find out who you really are, you are in satsang. You are communing with the truth. You're in yoga, which simply means union with the self, union with God. Right? So, thank you all once again for joining me here. This is really quite lovely. So let me just say hello to everyone who is joining, and please, by all means, say hello. If you can hit that link, if you haven't already, it should be up at the top, at the very top in the description of the sorry, the video, the live stream on your page. It's a streamyard.com/Facebook, and it gives permission for them to show me your name. Right? You can remain anonymous if you prefer. That's cool too. I don't mind. I'll still answer the question. You don't have to identify yourself. But on the practical level, what satsang is it's just an open forum. You notice I don't plan anything. I just start speaking spontaneously while people are arriving. But the heart and soul of it is your questions, because this is your inquiry. It's your satsang, right? Mine too, because I still do the inquiry. I'm still inquiring. David and Elaine, my dear friends from Southeast England, Rosario in Spain, Brian in brisk Norfolk, Virginia, Ava in Poland, Ursula on Madeira Island, John Watson from Scotland, Mary Sykes, hey, the first person from the US here, in Niagara Falls, New York, Sarah Sands, happy to be here. All is well in the apartment. Maybe. It's actually completely taken apart now. It's a long story, but I may have to move. Let's see. And Sarah's in France. Patricia, hello, Patricia, from a not raining yet Vancouver. John in Ireland. Coco. Hello, Coco. From Melbourne, Australia. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you might be new. Wonderful. There's our Dr. Ruth and the Enlightened World Network. Said I'm really delighted again. As we were just joining, we're also live streaming to the group. We've been invited to share satsang with the group. So every Sunday I'll just be doing it into the same places. Some others may join us. So they're kind of sponsoring us, right, informally, and I'm just really pleased about it. So thank you for inviting me, Ruth. Tatiana in Toronto. Liza, hello, Liza. Carrie, hello, Carrie. I could listen to your voice forever. Very melodic and giving. Thank you, Carrie from Tennessee. Well, wonderful. Thank you for that. It's one of those, I'm nothing to do with it. You just kind of get the pipes, right? And some people are, everybody has a certain qualities that they're born with, but make sure you understand what the voice is saying, because the voice is only the conduit, right? It's just carrying the message. Like the wire carries the electricity, the juice is in the electricity. Yeah. So a pleasant voice allows us to kind of settle into it. But remember, this voice is speaking to your heart, trying to reveal to you who you really are. So, Amakija, Aaron from Canada. Hello, Aaron. Christina. Hello, Christina in Michigan. Interesting conversation. Good. Dale Higgins. Good afternoon here from Massachusetts. Hope you're all safe and healthy. Looking to find subtle ways to share this understanding with others who are suffering with depression or anxiety. Very peaceful myself. Thank you. Don't try. The desire to share happiness and peace just is about as natural as it gets, right? Whenever anything great happens to you, what do? You call your friend or or somebody or your spouse or something and go, look, this is great, right? Because there's just this natural exuberance, like a child that wants to share what we have come to see, what we've discovered, what has the blessing that has flowed into our life. Live it, be it. Remember, don't think of it, information, knowledge in your head that you have to somehow put into somebody else. Right? It's there in them too. And the truth in them will see the truth in you. Right? That's namaste, right? The divine in me acknowledges the divine in you. So put all of your attention on living the peace more and more. Instead of being, I am peaceful, it becomes, I am peace itself. Peace is my nature. It is the perfume of my being, right? The flower doesn't set out to share its fragrance with us. It's just being the flower. But anybody who gets within smelling distance goes, wow, you can't help but just be drawn to it. It's just the attractiveness of it. But the flower's not trying to do anything, right? It's not trying to show everybody how good it smells or how pretty it is, right? Be the peace. This is the sweet secret, really, at the root of the non-dual approach. It isn't about acquiring; it's about being. That's why sat, that word sat, truth, also means being. It is existence itself. Right? So when we're first experiencing the fruits of this kind of an inquiry, or even after a while, right, there's that sense of an identity is still very active. Right? It can be active for lifetimes. It has been active for lifetimes. Right? And so there's a sense of identity that there's an I that is experiencing peace. and you've created a duality. There's me, and then there's peace. Now, if it's something I experience, something that I have attained, I could lose it. Right? Anything that comes is going to go. That is the nature of the universe. So if there's me and a peace, that peace will appear to get disturbed. I will find myself feeling discontent. I will find myself being lacking. I will find myself concerned. I will find myself with fear I didn't even realize I had. Because I have separated in my mind, because you can't really do it, okay? You cannot separate yourself from the truth, right? The truth of you is the truth of you. End of story. But in our minds, we can build an image of ourselves that isn't the truth, that is limited, that is finite. And then in the spiritual journey, we're attempting at first that false sense of ourselves becomes the seeker, which is a much better place to be. It starts the looking. And when you're fortunate enough to meet a genuine teacher, that looking will be turned inward. Because at first we're always looking out here. We're looking for the next technique or process, the next retreat, the next great idea, the next aha moment. Right? But eventually you begin to see that the aha moment, right, that moment of utter clarity becomes another is followed by a moment of confusion. And then we struggle to try to hold on to that clarity. How do I get that back, right? And so this is, for most, this is the spiritual journey. Self-help works the same way. Personal development, people have a deep religious experience, because there's still the sense of two. Right? It wasn't that I'm not. It's not like I've discovered my nature is peace itself. My mind has turned it into some state I've attained, right? And this is where the true teaching will say, right, that feeling that you had is the consequence of the glimpse into your actual self. That peace isn't a state that comes and goes. It's your very nature. I love to use the example of, imagine you live like I do in a part of the world where it's overcast most of the time, right? Imagine you live somewhere where it was overcast all the time, day in and day out, year after year. But every now and then, right, this patch of blue would appear in the sky. Oh, people are fascinated by it. It's amazing, right? They'd start worshiping it, start doing rituals like it's a good omen, right? And over time, every now and then, the patch of blue would come, and they'd have festivals then, and all sorts of things to celebrate the patch of blue, which is there for a moment and then gone. Yeah. To them, the sky is gray, and this blue cloud appears. This strange blue cloud appears for a while. Right? Seems quite divine. Right? Well, finally, time goes on, become more technologically advanced, and get some scientists and say, you know what? We're going to find out what this is. We're going to start studying this phenomenon. So they have all the equipment ready, and it happens one day, right? And they get in their hot air balloons and they fly up with their instruments to try to measure, to find out what this thing is. And they get right up to it, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they're in it, and all of a sudden, poof, there's blue everywhere. That wasn't the sky. The gray wasn't the sky. It was the sky showing through. Getting above the clouds, suddenly, wow, the sky is blue. You're peace. You are peace. You tasted was the perfume of your own being, just like the flower, emanating, the fragrance emanating from the flower, or the light emanating from the sun. The sun doesn't need light. The sun doesn't have to acquire light. This is the shift in perception that will take you right to the feet of God. And you'll finally see that God and you are one. That there's not two here. There's only one. And that one is the beingness of all of us. So when you do that, when it becomes your life, right, and you are that, it will permeate every single thing you do. It'll be peace driving the car. It'll be peace taking out the garbage. Right? It'll be peace doing everything. It'll be peace meditating. It'll be peace sitting in satsang. It's the beautiful step beyond that where non-duality takes everything to that final step. It's not a state I get into, it is my very nature. I and my Father are one, the way Christ put it. Another way he put it was just beautiful in the Gospel of Thomas. He who drinks the water of my mouth shall become like me, and I shall be him. Wow. That's Buddhism. He who drinks of the water of my mouth shall become like me, and I shall be him. Thank you, Dale. Jean, hello, Jean. Hello and welcome from Texas. Pleasure to hear you. Wonderful, wonderful. Roberto, my man. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Marcel, so good to see you. Oh good Lord. I have a feeling I'm not going to get through all the questions today. Robert Dosa, hello, Robert. Welcome. Hey, Daryl, from the seat of the insurrection. Good to see you, Daryl. Hello, PS. Anja from Germany. I think PS is in, I forgot where you are. Rosalind, good vibes. Hello, Rosalind in California. Ibrahim from Bethlehem, Palestine. Oh, how did I say that pronounced? Bethlehem, Palestine. Beautiful. Welcome. Nikki Summer from Wales. Hello, Nikki. Such a peaceful voice. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Many of you are new here. This is so wonderful. Hi, Terry. So happy to be tuning into you. Pauline from North Wales. Love and light to all. Ibrahim, I have some tingling in my right toe, the meditation. Why does that happen? Oftentimes, if we just stop, what meditation does is it focuses our attention inward. And because we're not focused outward, right? The mind isn't constantly engaged, especially when you close your eyes. 80% of the information that we deal with during the day comes through our sight. So the moment you close your eyes, the attention immediately starts looking somewhere else because it's always looking for something to look at. As we begin to allow ourselves to settle into that state of meditation, now 80% of your attention, which before was completely engaged, is now refocusing itself internally. Right now, you probably don't notice, but everybody here, if you pay attention to it, just put your attention on your bottom of your feet. And you'll notice there's a tingling there. It's there all the time. And we don't see it. Right? Our attention is very limited. It can only take in so much. And obviously, with the power of our concentration, we can, I'm sure you've been so into something, so focused on something, that that everything else is gone. People could even talk to you and you wouldn't hear them, right? And if I asked you, we were sitting here having a conversation. I said, "Hey, look, could you go into my bedroom, and on a nightstand next to the bed, there's a little gold box. Could you get that for me? It's right in the door. You'll see it, and you'll go and you'll come back and you hand me the box. And I'll say thank you. And then I ask you, what color was the bedspread? What color were the curtains? What color was the wall? Maybe even what color was the nightstand? Right? You wouldn't know. You didn't see them. Our attention is like a flashlight. It focuses. And what happens in meditation is that you begin to defocus it. You start taking in things as they are. You start feeling things you didn't know were there. Now, this is the beautiful thing about that is if you simply allow them to be there, right? And kind of log off of the mind. So you're not, oh, this story, what's this? I don't like this. This is any kind of judgment, and just present with the feelings themselves. It opens us up to the vastness of our inner world. And that's the whole point of meditation, right? Its goal is not relaxation or calming the mind or anything like that. Its goal is to be able to exclude all of the noise so you actually see what's here. And you'll notice how the body functions, right? Even if there's some pain, don't immediately go or trying to fix it or figure out how to change it or anything like that. Be with it. Because the real thing you're learning when you're being present with it, just as pure sensation without any kind of story, you're learning to step into the equanimity which will open the door to the biggest vision. You're stepping out of the mind, right? So there's this tingling, right? Just be with it. The mind wants to know what it is. And so it comes to somebody who's a meditation teacher. What is this tingling? And what I say is, ask the tingle. It knows. I don't, right? We could look up the anatomy. We could look up the various processes and the chemistry and all of that sort of stuff, and then think we know what it is. Right? It's an experience you're having, right? And that experience is subjective to you, right? So you simply be with that and let it reveal itself to you. And it will. It'll either do that or it'll just disappear, because it's just part of the natural phenomena of the flow of life, right? Which our minds are so busy trying to figure out. Right? If there's really something there that it needs to tell you, it will. You go, just listen. And you'll just find the most wonderful equanimity and peace begins to arise inside of you. Because you are not in conflict with what you're feeling. Right? Even a subtle conflict of trying to figure it out, right? So all that's aside, you're pure presence. This is exactly what Eckhart Tolle meant when he was talking about being in the now, without a story. Not your story about now, but what are you actually experiencing? And you stop for a moment, you'll feel there's all sorts of little sensations going on. Some are so subtle, we don't even have words for them. Like that tingle at the bottom of your feet. It's kind of a tingle. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, Ibrahim. Roberto, I had a hard weekend, GP. Terrible fears have come to me. I cannot wait for tomorrow's tapping. Very good. Very good. I'm not laughing at his fear, everybody. Right? But this is where the courage comes in. Right? Just be with it. You'll notice, Roberto, that when a fear comes up, there's a reaction in the system. Right? You'll notice the mind has created a scenario in which something terrible can happen. Now, in this moment, nothing terrible is actually happening, right? So the feeling of fear is an illusion. It's not real. There isn't an actual danger present, right? This is how you get the power over it. Now, when a fear arises, there's a very natural urge to get away from it. We want to get away from the object of our fear. But when the object of our fear has been created in the mind, we can't get away from it because wherever you run, there it is. So how do you then get away from it? You withdraw your attention from it. You recognize that what the mind is telling you isn't true. It's not present. And you may feel like you're riding a bull at the rodeo, right? Because that fear is just pushing you every which way. But if you just stay with it, go, this isn't really true. This is just habit energy that I've gotten so used to that I think I'm not creating it. It's all an image in the mind. That's where you will find your power. Susan Lamonica, hello from New York. Grateful. This is infinitely better than the news. It's better than the news because this is true. The news is a story. Oh, let's see. Robert, useful words spoken with a peaceful voice. Thank you, Robert. Coco, I've attended a couple of live satsangs last year, but have been watching you for a year and a half. I love your work. Thank you. Thank you very much. Roberto, is there any action we need to take to make something happen, or just let it happen by itself, whatever that is? Whatever action needs to be taken will be taken. Right? The problem isn't the action or lack of action. The problem is the story, the ongoing story in the mind that needs to be challenged. Is it actually true? That's the question. Is what I'm afraid of really true? If it is, you should be afraid of it. We all should. But if it isn't, then you have you are standing on very solid ground. You can claim this territory and transcend your fear. Dale, thanks, GP. I just wonder if others see my piece, but wonder how one gets to this while being identified as a person. The understanding of who we actually are might not ever find them. Yes, you have no control over that, right? So just be you, and they'll find you, right? The open heart, right, or the struggling heart, is without the person even knowing it, is got its feelers out into the world, looking for the truth. Okay? In the beginning, we always think the truth is out there somewhere, and it's got to come from someone. But when you meet such a someone, if they're the real thing, they will always turn you back to you. Right? It is the peace in them that will recognize the peace in you, and that will begin to grow. So you can't decide on, and you don't need to. You just be the sun. You don't have to. You know when they want to come out of the cave, it's up to them. Interesting, says Robert. Oh, I'm glad. Marcel, haven't seen you for a while. The flower metaphor is awesome. Thank you for sharing. You're welcome. Haven't seen you either. I miss you. Mary, when I look back on the years that I have been so conflicted, and still to this day, I'm seeing that the presence has and is always there and has never been touched by any of it. Oh, what a powerful thing to see, huh? What an incredibly powerful insight to have. The realization that who you really are has always been there. It's who we thought we were that it was creating all the mischief, not who you actually are. And it doesn't even take a lot to see it, right? Just notice right now, right, that you're listening to my voice, you're hearing my words, right? But could you be doing that if you weren't here? If you weren't present? What is it that actually hears these words? You know, this mic I'm wearing doesn't hear me. The wires that it's going through, the Cat5 cable that goes to the internet, right? And out through all of the servers, right? They don't hear me. The your computer doesn't hear me. The headphones you have on or the speakers, they don't hear me. The little flap of skin, right, vibrating in sympathy in your ear, that's not hearing me. The little, converting into electronic pulses, and it's going through synapse, and it's going all over these places in the brain, none of which actually hear me. What hears me? You do. That's you. That's the presence. And haven't you always been here, even in the times that have been most difficult or trying or confusing? Have you been there, aware of the difficulty, of the confusion? Obviously, we have a preference for the happy times rather than the miserable times. But I'm trying to draw your attention to what is there regardless of the actual content of experience. Bring your attention to the one who's actually having the experience. And when you see that, you begin to realize that that's like that blue sky. That it may be a ferocious storm passing through it, but the sky remains untouched. It doesn't even leave a trace, right? It goes by. Does the sky go, whoa, wow, whew, sure glad that was over. It's just like, does God wake up in the morning and say, oh, geez, Jesus Christ, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to be God today. Right? It doesn't, I'm pointing you to that which is never disturbed. The sky is never disturbed. That sense, what's hearing my words right now, which witnesses the rising and falling of the sea, which witnesses every bit of content, no matter how wonderful or how grievous, it remains and is never touched by any of it. This is not a nice idea. It's not a teaching. I invite you to look for yourself. Right? Do not take my word for it. It's not a teaching. It's not a gained knowledge, right? It's a direct seeing. You're looking. Hasn't there been an unchanging presence throughout the entire range of your experience? Think back to when you were 10 years old or younger, playing with your trucks or whatever, right? Or your dolls or your friends' trucks or whatever. Wasn't there this same awareness there? The content of experience changes constantly. That's the impermanence. And without that impermanence, there couldn't be any experience whatsoever. Experience is nothing but the registering of change. But what registers the change? That's not changing. And that's you. That's the real you. Even the thoughts of me, who I took myself to be as dear, I don't have the same self-image I did 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago. That image, the ideas I held about myself, they're constantly in flux. They never sit still. But me, the ultimate perceiver, have I. That is the true I. That is the I am. That's what in religious terms is called God, the self, the Buddha, the Christ. Coco, hello. GP, is there a difference between spacious awareness and what Sri Nisargadatta calls the absolute or prior to consciousness? I know they are both sides of the same coin, but there seems to be a subtle difference. Wow, great question. Thank you. Many of the people new here may not know who Nisargadatta Maharaj is, or was, let me get back here. Things just kind of jump up on me. Um, he was just a great Indian sage, died in 1981 or something like that. He's best known for the book I Am That, and other books, Prior to Consciousness, The Ultimate Medicine, many others. He was my introduction to non-dual spirituality. So obviously, I'm very, it's very important to me. And it's a very, very subtle point. But here's the best way to approach it, Coco. Rather than just an answer, I want you to just notice that as you're simply taking yourself in, right, your own inner experience, and your attention moves very naturally away from thinking, right? Because there's thinking going on, and we really get wrapped up in our thinking, of course. But you can see that there's thoughts happening, and then there's something seeing those thoughts. Right? There's something witnessing, perceiving them. They're being watched, like there's this little screen in my head. Something is watching those thoughts. Right? And those thoughts are constantly coming and going, but me watching it isn't. I'm not coming and going. Right? I'm just like the viewer, the ultimate witness. And this is true of your emotions and true of your sensations, right? And obviously, without you, there are no thoughts. They're not self-existent. They come in and out of existence very quickly to you, right? Nobody else sees them, right? They're not in a drawer somewhere and you pull them out, right? They're spontaneously arising, but they're arising to you. Now, so you're not your thoughts. You're not your body. That is the sensations. You're not the emotions. They're experience you have, but they're not the reality of you. Now, coming further in, going in even deeper, right? So now all of a sudden, okay, there's thoughts. The question becomes really powerful at that point. Well, then what am I? What am I? Because I always define myself in terms of thoughts or feelings, right? But if those are just a temporary transient experience I am having, who's the I that's having it? Right? And then you'll find, I think, if this kind of a meditation, that there's something else there, something extremely subtle, so subtle, in fact, until there's some distance from all this activity, you don't even notice it. And that's the sense of your own being. You're aware of your being. You're aware that you are. Right? And that sense of being, right, is what Nisargadatta refers to as the I am. The sense I am. The self-aware I am, and I know it. Right? But even before that sense of I am could be viewed, could be experienced, you had to be here. You can't say I am or I exist unless you do. So prior even to the consciousness of existence this is what Nisargadatta referred to as the absolute. It is beyond categorizations. It is totally transcendent. It cannot be put into words, right? It cannot be reduced because it's irreducible. Right? You can't actually even speak about it, right? Because it doesn't have a second. It is one. It is indivisible. And without something else, language description is impossible. So at this point, something inside just begins to recognize, I am that. And that sense of being is the I am that creates the universe. It's the firstborn of the absolute. You can't get to the absolute. You are the absolute. It's called God. The street name for it is me. The me that I can never really know, but I'm constantly experiencing. So the deepest practice the only practice really, which is what Nisargadatta recommended, is constantly bring your attention back to the sense I am. That is as far as the mind and attention can go. And you're just there. That's the door you knock on. And eventually the answer to who I am will reveal itself as yourself. It will not be information you get. It's like, the moth is in a love affair with the flame, right? That love affair concludes, the moth is no more. It becomes the flame. Right? The great rivers of the world, right? The Nile, the Seine, the Thames, the Potomac, the Mississippi. You can see, oh, there's the Mississippi, but when it hits the ocean, you don't say, look out in the ocean, oh, there's the Mississippi swimming in the ocean. It's gone. There's just the ocean. Right? You, that is who you think you are, disappears. This is the ultimate. That's the absolute. It cannot, this is the Tao that cannot be spoken. Right? Thank you for that, Coco. I hope that answers your question. But experientially, right? I don't want to just give you an idea. Look for yourself. Look and find that there's a very subtle experience there. And if it's an experience, it's not me. That's not it yet. And if it's the most subtle of all experiences, then you are right in standing on the threshold between the infinite absolute and the infinite manifestation. Beautiful question. Thank you. Mary says, it is, and always just observing the experience. Yes. Vivekananda would ask followers, is your mirror clear? And say, the only thing we can do is polish the mirror. The Swami who recounted this didn't explain. What did he mean? That's a very old one, especially in India, but also in China. And it's part of the story that marks the difference between the progressive school of Buddhism, which is the progressive, which is Tibetan and ethnic versions of it, and the Sudden school, which is Zen. And there's a very famous scene where the patriarch was going to be handing on, who's going to be his successor taking over, kind of like the Dalai Lama. And so he said he wanted everybody to write a poem on this wall. And nobody actually did it except one guy, because everybody knew this is the guy that's going to be. And there was this other fellow who was just working in the kitchen, but the master, the Zen master, realized that he was actually enlightened, but he couldn't read or write. He was illiterate, so he had somebody write up there for him. And the poem that the one fellow, the fellow everybody thought was going to be the one to get it, was exactly like that. Mind is like a mirror. Always keep it spotless and pure. Something, I can't quote the exact poem, right? Just a simple verse. This other fellow, the illiterate fellow, after he had that read to him because he couldn't read, he said, where is this mirror where dust can alight on? No mirror, no dust. If there's a mirror I have to keep clean, I will spend eternity trying to clean it. It is our false sense of ourselves. It's the image you're holding of yourself that collects the dirt. Okay? It's not you. You're not the mirror. Right? You're the one looking at the mirror. Yeah, clean the mirror if you want. Right? But you're not getting dirty. Right? When we identify with the image, the mirror, the image in our mind, oh yeah, we're in the realm of having. We're going to be meditating. We're going to be tapping till we have dents in our face. We're going to be visualizing till our head explodes, right? Trying to keep ourselves pure. Right? But when you see that that's just an image in the mind and it's not you, there's no mirror left to clean. There's no place for the dust to land. You are the pure, infinite sky. And so this is that idea about keeping the mirror clean. It's kind of the mainstream spirituality, personal development, self-help. They're all like that, keeping your mind straight, keeping your vision, right? Keeping your thoughts and that sort of thing, which is good, right? Obviously, it's better than the alternative. Grumble, grumble like Eeyore, right? And Winnie the Pooh. It's certainly far superior than that, but we want to go a bit further. We want to go to the point where we don't need that anymore, right? Where you're not something that needs to be constantly cleaned. You don't clean the sky. You don't need to. Even the dust, a huge dust storm or windstorm, right? It doesn't stick to the sky. Nothing sticks to space. Be the space. Presence is the constant, eternal isness. Yes. And it is just presence. It is not presence as something like, this body is present, right? It is just presence itself. You are, and that's it. You just are, right? You're not this or that. You're not a thing at all. You just are. Right? Something in your hearts will resonate with that. Your mind will be going, what? What do you mean? Because the mind, it's the functioning of mind. It needs objects, right? Everything is an object. Everything it knows is based on a reference point. Right? I know what this is. Okay, so I know what that is. I know who I am, so I know who they are. Right? I know what the right way to be is. So they're doing it the wrong way. They're doing it the right way. These are my friends. Those are my enemies. That's what the mind does. And its central reference point is the sense of self. It's that image that we hold of ourselves. Right? If you let that reference point go, and your only reference point is the pure you, with nothing extra added, your reference point is now the infinite. And now what does the world look like from the mind of the infinite? Thank you so much for the quote from the Gospel of Thomas. Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome. It's amazing, isn't it? P.S. You're from Germany too. Now I remember. Hanan, hello from Costa Rica. Hello, sir. Great to have you. Anthony Van de Velde Senior. Hi, Anthony. Van de Velde. Oh, I see. It's an L, not an I. Welcome. Hendrik is also from Germany. Dawn in Pennsylvania. Anthony is from Ohio. Wonderful, wonderful. I don't think I've had many people from Ohio. Actually, most of the people that come are from other countries, so it's good to see all the Yanks here. Ruth, GP, is there some talk about more suicides as the angst and confusion in the world increases? Any words to support folks who might be thinking of taking this time to step out of the 3D? There's a better way to do it. I agree about stepping out of the 3D, right? I'm all for it, right? But to do that actually is still in the 3D, because the real problem isn't out there. The real problem is we don't know who we are. Now that may seem, if you're not used to that kind of approach, right? It may seem like, oh, but wait a minute, there's all these people, they're doing these crazy stuff, they're taking over the Capitol, and they're doing these weird things. Right? Don't we have to do something about it? Well, yes, but where is it arising from? Right? When somebody gets that far that they don't want to live anymore, and I was there, right? 50 years ago, I was there, right? But I didn't realize what I really wanted out of, what I wanted to commit suicide from, was my mind. Was my ego. That was what was killing me. That's the true death. That is the death from which you are resurrected. And all the pain and anguish and suffering and deprivation we are experiencing, it's the crucifixion of the ego. That's the deeper meaning of that metaphor, right? The ego, the false self, gets crucified. That's what it meant by taking on the sins of the world. And the wages of sin are death. That's what those scriptures actually mean. That's what they're referring to. The cross is an ancient symbol that symbolizes the intersection between the past and the future, heaven and earth. It's the quartering of the universe, in the middle of which the mythological figure of the king sits. The king, in this case, the king of the Jews. But what it represents is the death to our purely animal, instinctual nature and rebirth in the realm of pure spirit. And so what we're really wanting to be free of is our minds. And there's only one way to do that, and that's to come to see that you're not your mind. You can live without the psychological mind. It can't live without you. You are in the driver's seat. What we're seeking is the truth. And when we have that, when we feel that, when it permeates our bones, the antics, the stuff that people are doing will not have the same kind of power or authority. You'll easily see through it. And those who are truly wanting something, that aren't just grabbing a position to vent their anger, which many are, those who are actually open and really, really, really want to be free, they will find you. They will find you. Right? The others, they won't, right? And the others that don't, what do we do about it? Nothing. You can't do anything about it. You can't force someone to wake up. You can't force them to even examine their own point of view. I don't swim with sharks. I don't expect them to become vegans on my behalf. Right? That is what they're like. And when somebody is stuck in that kind of mentality, full of anger and hate, the three poisons, right? Ignorance, anger, and greed. And when they're stuck in there and unwilling to question it, there's only one thing that breaks open that shell: suffering. And they are suffering, you can tell, but they believe their suffering is coming from somebody else. Right? And so there's no answer in violence, whether that violence be manifest towards somebody else or towards yourself. Listen to these words. Are they threatening you? Are they telling you you're horrible? Right? It's that your life isn't worth anything, or are they telling you exactly how valuable you actually are? Right? It's simply what we have been taught about our own value and worth that makes us want to just end it all. And I agree, end that. Sacrifice that. Kill that. It's not you. It really isn't you. You've just gotten so used to thinking of yourself in a certain way, it's become obsessive. You are always in the driver's seat. Your mind won't tell you that. It will keep saying this stuff. It becomes, look, we've all practiced being who we're not for lifetimes. This is not your first rodeo. For lifetimes. You have identified with the body and the form and the culture and the times. And as a result, it's always ended in death, right? And then birth, because you can't actually put an end to you. Right? We're back. It's like those little punching bags that kids have. You hit it, boom, we're back. Right? You just keep popping up again. You're perennial, right? As it will always be. You're always getting yet another opportunity to see through the illusion. Don't question your worth. Question the worth of these thoughts you have mistaken for yourself. Right? And you can let that die. That is, it's not really dying because it's not really alive. You can't kill it anymore. You could kill a cartoon character because they don't really exist. Right? They're simply thoughts. That's all they are. And believe me, if you follow this, you'll come to a place where you'll find that the you that you really are is so mind-numbingly beautiful that you'll just fall down in worship of your own nature. It'll be the worship of God in its purest sense, but it will be worshiping God from the inside. You'll be kissed from the inside. Wow. Thank you for that, Ruth. I hope that answers. Like watching a movie, and you are so caught in the action of the movie that you don't perceive anything else that is going on around you. Yeah, that's what happens with attention, right? And so much, there's so much. You ever notice how, like maybe you drive or walk the same path to work, right? And you'd be walking down the street or something, and you go, "Oh wow, look, there's a new building," and somebody you're with goes, "Dude, that's been there for 5 years." you didn't see it. This is the way our attention works, right? But the thing is that we mistake our attention for who we are. We think my attention is all there is to consciousness, and it ain't so. It's a flashlight in a dark room, right? Awakening is simply turning on the chandelier so you see the whole thing, right? And that comes from coming back to yourself. Hello, Jay. Hello, G, and everyone. G, how do you help someone to bring them this way? Because I have a relative who follows Amma, a well-known spiritual guru, and they strongly believe that she is God, and there's nothing else. There's nothing above her. On one hand, I feel like they're happy and not harming anyone based on their beliefs. There probably isn't any point to talking to them about this. You answered your own question. Yeah, it's kind of like talking to a fundamentalist Christian. Their image of God is their God. So, or Hare Krishna, right, who believed that Krishna was the personhood of God. God as not as a person, but as the absolute beyond what any person could possibly contain. They haven't gone to that extent yet, but their worship of this, and if Christians actually worshipped and emulated Christ rather than doing a bunch of things in his name, boy, what a different world this would be. The followers who believed Buddha was God, the Lord Buddha, that was some kind of personal dispensation. The followers of Christ, or the followers of Amma, or some guru. People felt that way about Osho, right? That's as far as they can see. Now, the fact of the matter is, the moment you take the infinite God and make it a fact, a thing, that's idolatry. You are creating a graven image, right? Now, don't tell them that, please, right? Because an alchemy is happening, right? Most Christians really aren't the kind of fanatical thing we see guys on TV or the Westboro Baptist Church and that sort of stuff. The message of Christ, as far as they understand it, is informing their lives. They are trying to live up to that as high as they could. The followers of Amma, right? They're doing the same thing, and as a result, it becomes almost a mythology that informs life, right? Which is what all mythology is supposed to do. But eventually you go beyond myth, you go beyond the symbol of God to God, right? And you find that God is shining through the symbol. It's shining through the myth. It's shining through the ideas of God, right? And it's simply a matter of the maturity of the individual, where they will be willing at some point to let go of that image and truly become one with the divine, one with the God, right? And that happens because you disappear. There's a beautiful poem. And again, you can't tell them any of this. You just be it. Just be it. There's a beautiful poem, a 12th century mystic by the name of Lin Po. It's a very short poem, only 4 lines. It really captures this spirit, the moth to the flame. He says, the bird disappears into the sky. The cloud dissolves, drains. We sit together, the mountain and I, until only the mountain remains. The end goal of meditation is for you to disappear. What? I'm not signing up for this. That's the symbology of the crucifixion. Father, it is finished. Into thy hands I commit my spirit. And what happened? Resurrection. Any vestige of a self was gone. This is the true experience of awakening. Right? Lord, replace me with you. Is the prayer of the awakened monk. It's you lay on the table. The final obstacle is me. I want to know God. This is what triggered Buddha or Muji's enlightenment. He told his master, Papaji, I want to know God, because he was kind of a mystic Christian, right? And Papaji said to him, if you want to know God, you must vanish. If you want to know the ocean, you must cease to be the Mississippi. If you want to know the flame, you must cease to be the moth. It is total immolation, right? Because that sense of self is what dies. And you discover it's not you, but it may feel, it's kind of hard to market the crucifixion, right? Nobody signs up for a 3-day weekend, right? So it's a final step. The bhakti path, the path of devotion, which is what most Christians are, a lot of Buddhists, the followers of Amma, is a deeply spiritual yoga. It's part. As a matter of fact, I wish there was more of that in a lot of people who are studying and even teaching non-duality. That's missing, right? It becomes too much in the head. That devotion, at some point, they're going to see that they now have to inquire into themselves. Right? If I'm going to be one with God, okay, just one. Okay, there can't be 2 of us then. So I guess it's not God that's got to go, it's me. So, but again, just be the light. Be of the same essence and spirit as Amma. As Paul put it, let that mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Let's see. Isabel, phenomenal explanation. Thank you. By the time I get down to these, oftentimes it can be 20 minutes before I see a comment you made 20 minutes ago. I'm just now seeing. So I'm not even exactly sure what it was, but thank you. Hello, GP and everyone from Russell in Durban. Hello, Russell. They really believe self-realization is based off of your karma, and you have to practice meditation, get the guru's blessing to have the realization. Yes, and it's true. You do have, it is the grace of the guru. The belief is that the guru is the person standing in front of you, but the real guru is here. That's what is meant by the term Sadguru, the ultimate guru. And the true guru is always pointing you back. The true teacher is always pointing you back to the real guru, which is in you. Right? But at a certain point in our spiritual development, we see that we have to have a guru, right? Somebody who reflects back to you the truth of your being, right? Who is an enlightened being, right? And they can reflect you back to you and just gently keep guiding you back there until you disappear, and all there is the guru. The sage or the guru is not somebody who has wisdom. It is wisdom appearing as a human being, right? Which is what Amma is, in fact, right? And those that worship her don't realize they're worshiping their true selves. But I'd much rather have them immolating their ego, worshiping her, than thinking somehow their ego is divine. Right? We could use a little bit more of the devotional bhakti path in the world of non-duality. Hello, Lisa. Welcome. That's Lisa Berry. She is my on-air producer of my radio show, which is every Tuesday on Om Times Radio, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Lisa makes it happen for me. If it wasn't for her, it wouldn't be happening. Carrie, I heard God say to me in my meditation that we are ego emotion reacting. It's not truth. Perfect, yes. It's not that what you are is the ego, but what we've identified with is the ego. The ego isn't even a thing. It's a thought. It's a belief, right? The ego has no more reality to it than Mickey Mouse does, right? It's an activity, right? It's a functioning, right? It's the functioning of the mind that is focusing on an image, a limited image of you, right? But because nobody's come along to say that's not actually who you are, right? You're something else altogether. We've just kind of believed that. And of course, it was installed in us from the time we were children. We were told who we were, how we had to conform. And so the whole nervous system and body learned to conform itself to a particular image, right? It's not the ego, it's just me, right? And then all we can think about is egoism or egotism or conceit, right? Oh, they got a big ego. A big ego can be the victim, or it can be the perpetrator, right? It's a separate sense of self. And so it's absolutely right. What the voice was telling you is that the ego is nothing more than mental and emotional reactions. That's all it is. There's not a thing. I'm not that. But these reactions happening over and over again, we begin to think of them as ourselves. There's a sense of identification with the body, with my experience, with my memories, with my group, right? I'm this way, right? And they're not. So, there's all sorts of identification with our belief systems. When we see all of them are artificial, they've all been acquired, right? You're beginning to see through the ego. The structure of the ego is only maintained by our belief in it, right? And what it is a projection of a sense of self, which is real. You are the self. But when you project it on what in fact is nothing but the functioning of the nervous system, it's like seeing a face in the cloud. There's no face there. There's a cloud. There's a functioning. Obviously, our nervous system are functioning. Our body's making sensations are happening. Emotions are happening. Thoughts are happening, right? But those are just patterns, and they don't have a self. That's what in Buddhism they say. There's no self. That's what they're referring to, right? It's not that you don't exist. It's that this functioning is not a self. The self is projecting on that functioning an image and thinking that this functioning is that image. Like we see a face in a cloud. There's no face there. Or somebody, who sees Jesus in the tea leaves at the bottom of their cup. Not there. It's completely a projection of the mind, right? So it's a beautiful insight Carrie. It's just reactive patterns. That's all it is, right? When you see that, you oh, it's so liberating. Oh my God, I've never been any of this. I've never been any of it. I've always actually been free, and I mistook my car for me. I mean, really, I mistook the vehicle for me. So now who am I? Oh, wow. Who am I without the conditioning? As they say in Zen, who were you before your parents? What did you look like before your parents were born? Right? Before all this conditioning and the identification of who was I? Who am I? And remember, this identification is the substance of every single life you've had. So you're not only just stepping out of the conditioning of this life, you're stepping out of all your karma. Because all the karma has been that. Nothing more. It's nothing more than the identification with form. The moment I'm not identified, that it's not even my karma. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's just the functioning of life, the natural functioning of the manifestation of consciousness. And it is all consciousness. Hello, Alessandra. Isabel said, I just found you here on EWN, but I'm loving the way you calm us in giving us awesome explanations for clarification of what meditation means. Thank you so much. Well, you're very welcome, Isabel. Oops. Can't have water with the top closed. I have a drinking problem. Yes, wonderful. Meditation is such an important practice, but this is meditation without an object. I'm not focusing on a flame or even the breath. I will often start with the breath to just help keep bringing the attention in, but then I keep going. Right? So you end up going beyond thought, you go beyond emotion, you go beyond a sensation to this place where there are no objects. There's nothing to focus on. Right? And so attention just begins to relax. It's like defocusing, right? You know, we stand by the ocean watching the sunset, and it's just vast. The vista is just vast. We kind of tend to, our eyes just kind of defocus. We're trying to take it all in. It's like peripheral vision and the whole thing. It's that kind of a defocus inside. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is to see the seer, to perceive the perceiver. And then you find out you can't be perceived. But then something just, oh, I can't perceive it because I am it. You are what you seek. Beautiful. Thank you, Isabel. I am not going to get, well, maybe I will. I don't know. Jumps around so much. Mary, that which hears and sees is way bigger than the body. Yes, it sees the body. It's just a belief that somehow consciousness has been compressed into the skull, that somehow I'm in the body. That's what it appears, right? But, you know, we have a beautiful example of it now with a virtual reality, right? That's getting more and more realistic. And someday it's going to be so realistic, you won't be able to tell which is which. Right? And so when you're in that virtual world, you are in a world that doesn't actually exist. Or you have a dream at night. You can get a different body, you know, with a different gender, sometimes one with both genders, right? And have all sorts of experiences. And in the dream, it feels as if it's objective, that you're in space-time somewhere and talking to, and then you realize you're not. Right? You're not in the body. The body's not in, the consciousness is not in the body. The body's in consciousness. It's the experience that we're having, and it's completely subjective. This is the meaning behind Christ's message when he said, the tree bends where the wind blows, but you cannot see where it's coming from and you cannot see where it's going to. That this is what those who are born of the Spirit are like. The Spirit is moving the body. That's how the resurrection took place. He never died. He resurrected the body. If it actually even happened, who knows? It's not important because the meaning of it remains the same, and that's what the story is there for. That's what about. It's a resurrection into spiritual life. They are clear. I should not even try to my. Why don't you check out GP? Even try Suffering Friend. You know, sometimes it takes a certain amount. It takes, for some people, it could take a lot of suffering before a crack in the ego begins to form, because the ego is just trying to. It's just the defensive mechanism of the system, right? It's trying to protect me. But the me it's trying to protect, it doesn't realize, is the one that's causing all the misery. It just doesn't realize it, right? It's somehow, at some point, something will crack, right? And they might not ask you, but you may just feel it. You just may feel there's an opening there. You may just say something, and they'll say something back to you that they wouldn't have said before. Right? So it's not like you just forget about them, don't worry about it. Because you love them, right? You want them to share. You want them to be free of their suffering. Duh. Right? But you don't want to cause more by doing it prematurely. So you become very wise, very, very astute, very willing to do anything you need to, up to and including nothing. And that's the path of the Bodhisattva. Robert. It reminds me of a night when I just finished work and a storm started. I had to walk all the way home. So I found a little shelter on the way, because I didn't have an umbrella, but I ended up soaked, as it was a powerful wind blowing too. So after getting soaked to the bones, I walked calmly through the storm while others were running under their... It's all about perception. Yes. I was out on my motorcycle when I was living in New York. I was on a motorcycle. I used to drive motorcycles. Still like them. And it starts, this downpour starts, right? And I'm drenched, and I'm parked under a bridge, and it just keeps going, right? Trying to avoid it. I'm sitting there going, I'm already absolutely soaking wet, right? It's not like it's 40 degrees out. It's a warm day. All right, forget it. And I just, the wind and the storm, eventually, the whole West Side Highway had about a foot and a half of water on it. I was literally driving. I could put my feet on the water, and I was making rooster chat. It was the funnest, so much fun. Why in the world would I think to avoid that? It was such a blast. I'd put my feet down, and they just go into the water as I was holding the bike up. Beautiful. Jesse Herrick Humphreys. Hey, Carrie. Okay, not sure what that means. Freezing up. Thanks, GP. Beautifully explained. Namaste. Namaste to you. Lovely to be with. Hey, hello, Sue in South Africa. Lake Constance. Kieran. Hello, Kieran. You're also in Texas, I believe. I'm trying to remember. Han Daly. Hello, GP. I don't have time to be in this, but I love you. You're awesome. Bye. Thank you for stopping in, Sanchez. Alessandra, this is extra difficult when someone close to you, your daughter, is experiencing suicidal thoughts because she wants to have a man's body. And yes, there's nothing you can do except love them, love them, love them. Don't you be intimidated by their suicidal thoughts. Don't be intimidated by it. Ultimately, you have no control over it. There's no way you can control somebody else's experience. But don't you be afraid of it, because then it becomes your experience. Now, I'm experiencing fear for their thoughts, and of course, it's your daughter. I mean, I'm not. You can't become. You cannot help but want to take that on for yourself, right? But make sure that when you take on the sins of the world, there's no Velcro here for them to stick, right? So they can move right through. So you are a rock. You can't be touched. And then you can be with her desire, right? Doesn't want to be a girl, she wants to be a man. Okay, be with that. Totally be with that. And be with all the frustration that she would feel about that. The ridicule, the shame people will try to create for that. And just be there as the absolute bastion of pure and perfect love. That is all you can do. And know she's immortal. Even if she does dispose of this body, she's just going to get another one because you cannot kill you. You can't do it. And if you get that, you won't even bother trying. You realize that that's not really the escape you want. Right? To escape from the body, which is really to have the different gender and the like, it's fine. I don't care. Native Americans recognized all sorts. They didn't just have two genders. They had like 5 or 6, all the various kinds of combinations that all were recognized, right? So it has nothing to do with that. But what we really want to do is be freed of our identification with the body. That's what it's really all about. And when that happens, it will normalize everything else. You'll either find this body is just fine, I don't really care. You get a different, change it, whatever. It doesn't matter at that point, because you are really free from the thing that's causing the suffering, which is identification with form. Marvin, hello, Marvin. AGP, greetings from Finland. Could you talk a little more about being and knowing? Is being the same as knowing in meditation? They are exactly the same. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Being, consciousness, bliss, or truth, existence, and bliss. I mean, just look for yourself. Let's look at it really closely. If I existed but didn't know it, there was no consciousness. If there was no consciousness, would I exist? Absolutely not. I couldn't. And so, could I know if I didn't exist? The mind separates them into two. The Sat Chit Ananda of Sanskrit is simply drawing a picture of that which is beyond description, because it's indivisible. It's one. So it becomes unknowable from the point of view of the mind. Do you not know that you exist? Everybody here, just check. Do you exist? I don't think I'm going to get anybody answering no, because in order to answer no, you have to be here, right? It's very simple, right? This is not complex, heavy super duper teaching. This is very simple. You know you exist, right? And if you didn't know you exist, you wouldn't exist. And if you didn't exist, you couldn't know it. So they're the same thing. They're two different words for the same thing. Being and knowing are one. Again, if you give it to the mind, it's going to being, knowing. It's going to try to put these two things together. They're different aspects of the same transcendent, essential essence. I can't even call it a thing. I can't call you a thing. You're not a thing. You've never been a thing. You just are, and you know it. And if you didn't know it, you wouldn't be. So it's consciousness that is existence itself. Again, we're looking at this. This is just as simple and as direct as you can get. You're looking at your own direct experience. Right? I'm not planting thoughts in your head. I'm not putting you into a trance, although my leg is falling asleep. Right? I'm just inviting you to look at what's actually here. Right? What's my actual experience? I'm still connected and everything on my little wires and the like. So just look. Now you'll find your mind jumping back and forth, right? Being conscious, being conscious, being conscious, because the mind cannot grasp oneness, right? We all seek that sense of spiritual oneness, but we seek it in the mind where we can never find it. Because by the mind, by definition, is always the description of one thing in terms of another. That's human knowledge. There's always object and subject. But when the subject becomes the thing you're studying, right, you can't make yourself an object to study. So you must find yourself as yourself. It is a subjective inquiry, the nature of my own experience. And that which is having the experience, which is beyond the reach of any experience. This is the transcendent. This is the self. This is the only reason why non-duality seems difficult. Because you can't rely on human knowledge. You can't rely on the mind. The mind must have two things, right? And so you get this and you go, Sat Chit Ananda, being and knowing, are they the same? Right? Because the mind has being, okay, this is, but this knows. Doesn't there have to be something there to know? Right? Or is the knowing being? And just look at your experience. You are, and you know it. I am that. I am the knowing. Without the I am, does anything exist? So consciousness is being. And it's what you are. Carrie says, rather we are reacting with ego emotion to situation and it's not the truth. Absolutely, yes. And when you see that they are just reactions, a little smile comes on your face. Oh my God, it's not me. And that's the most important thing to see, that it is just a reactive pattern in the nervous system. It's just the way it was programmed. It's neither good nor bad, right nor wrong. It's just the way it is. But once you see it, right, you're no longer, you now have the pathway to the freedom from it. Because the only thing that sustains those reactions is our belief in them. The belief that's me. That's me. I'm always like that. This is terrible. You shouldn't, right? All those reactions. We don't even think about it. We just do it, right? When you go, oh my God, it's a reaction, and it's arbitrary. There's not even there's no truth in it at all. It was arbitrary. Just the way my nervous system got programmed by my particular upbringing, my particular experiences I had over my life. That's all it is. And that insight that that's not who I am is the genuine, is actually the open door to the genuine path to of spirituality, the genuine path to awakening. By first seeing what you are not. That opens up the door for eventually seeing what you are. Lord, let me be an instrument of your peace, Christina. St. Francis of Assisi. Yes. St. Francis of Assisi also said something else. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. He said, what you are looking for is where you are looking from. Ponder that. What you are looking for is where you are looking from. So powerful. A genuine Christian mystic, an enlightened being who got accepted by the church rather than killed off. Hendrik, there's the sentence, when there's not two, there can't be one. Could you say something about that? Well, yeah. I mean, these are all one and many, 1, 2, 5. These are all categorizations of the mind, right? So yes, it's transcendent. You can't even say it's one because there isn't anything else. So one, conceptually, it's a categorization, right? It's a conceptual construct, right? And it's always one as opposed to many, right? Our whole world of manifest experience is all the appearance of opposites. It's dark and night. It's masculine and feminine. It's up and down. It's right. That's without that there is no experience, right? So the strangest thing, the one seems to become many. right? But again, that's only from our perception of it. And the mind can't grasp that the one and the many are the same. Right? Even the words same or different. What do they mean? They're all relative to a particular point of view. So when there are not many, there's not one. These are all the categorizations of thought. This is all the way the structures of the mind work, and we just get stuck in them. We think the model our mind is creating is actually reality, and it's not. Right? You must know yourself as the one. That's it. I am. And just look at it. You say I am. I say. Everybody says, "Oh, God, children say I am." The mosquito doesn't say it, but there's a sense of being. Right? The I is everyone's name. You don't refer to yourself as Henrik. Hey, Henrik is saying, or I don't go. GP is saying, it's I. That's your real name. I. We all have the same name. Why? Because it's the same I. It is that sense I am that you have is the same sense I have. The space in Germany and the space in Seattle is the same space. The content is different. The space is the same. Space doesn't have boundaries or location. Objects in space do, just like thoughts in consciousness. But consciousness itself has no location. It is outside the realm of space and time. Hi, GP. Hi, Janet. Hi, doing a lot of I am presence and felt the need to fast today. Is fasting beneficial, or is this doership? It's doership if you think there's something that you're doing it to get something, right? Things happen spontaneously. I'll find myself just skipping meals or doing something. I mean, I did when I started coming to when I moved to Seattle. I started running in the morning. I'm not much of a runner. I like working out with weights and things like that better. But I just did. It just started happening. So I'm doing it. I'm enjoying it. And knees aren't hurting, and so it's like great. I took a run this morning before this. Now, do I have to run? That's what you have to watch out for. When the spontaneous arising in the moment of life in its spontaneity, which is utterly beautiful and mysterious, becomes the mind will then try to turn it into a practice, right? It'll turn it into a thing, right? Now it's a process. Before you know, it's a belief system. It's a religion. I've got to do it. I'm wearing funny clothes, right? This is how the whole thing happens. But when there's just this spontaneous arising, great. There's a feeling of fasting. Your body probably didn't need any food. It really needed to clean some stuff out. So say, don't give me any more food. I'll have to do that. And right now I got to get rid of some of this stuff. Great, do it. Right? Just don't turn it into a thing. That's all. Right? People say, should I meditate, 2 hours a day? Do you want to? No. Well, then don't. Right? We think, oh, I've got to do this in order to be who I already am. Listen to that. I've got to practice being what I already am. You're already that. The only practice is learning to discern what are nothing but perceptions in our mind and not actually the reality. But you can't be anything other than what you are. Isn't that self-evident? I can believe myself to be things I'm not, and we've all had that experience. We've all got, wow, I'm not like that at all. What was I thinking? We've all had the facepalm moment, right? What happened? Well, we realized that, oh, that's not actually who I am. It's not really me. Right? That's what this is. Right? Enlightenment is like coming home after a good day's work and just going, Thank you, Janet. Lisa, we do not express wisdom. Wisdom appears through us. Yes. The radio does not create the song. I don't praise the radio because it just played, Beethoven or Jimi Hendrix or something, right? Or Roll Out the Barrel. I don't complain to the radio because it's playing polkas, right? It's just the radio. It's just the conduit. It's just what's passing through. There's nothing special about this. There's nothing special about this body, right? The only thing that matters, I mean, you don't really care about that. Even the nice melodious voice, right? If it was saying a bunch of nasty stuff, you wouldn't be paying any attention to it. It's got nothing to do with that. It's the message, and that's not coming from this body. It's not coming from this person, right? The mystery of it, right? Where is it coming from? Where's your next thought coming from? Don't forget about the content of the thought, whether it be a great thought or not so great thought, right? Where did it come from? It's stunning. It comes from nowhere. Poof. Sometimes it could be brilliant. Sometimes it could be stupid as hell, right? But become fascinated by that. The thoughts just, they pop, they come, they go, and you're still here. Who are you? To whom thoughts appear. Wow. You are the mystery. Jay said, oh boy. Jay, Muji kind of reminds me of Anna because they both give devotees hugs, LOL, but I prefer Muji's teaching because it's the direct path. And his purpose is showing the truth. I don't see that with Amma. Yeah, for a while, Muji allowed that kind of thing. Because even though he's from Jamaica, the kind of the way he organizes the satsangs and his ashram and the like is really on the Indian model, where there was always an enormous amount of regard. The guru was worshipped as God, right? And a lot of gods, right? They were always trying to see through. The guru is always, of course, is always trying to see through the form to the actual God within, and you'll find that God is you, is the one looking, right? But even lately, probably starting about a couple of years ago, they even announced, please don't do that. Don't bow down. Don't kiss his feet, or any of that. Which, in the West, for us is we don't get it, right? In India, it's like no big deal. That's what you do, right? But for us in the West, it only becomes something I have to do. So you'll see him now. People try to do that and just lift him back up again, right? So yes, he teaches the direct path. There was a lot of devotion, but having met him, I understand the devotion. I felt like I was a candle standing next to the sun. I'd never felt a being like that in my life. I was standing in the presence of the Buddha. And the first time I met him and he hugged me, I literally fell into a chair. My legs gave out. Right? It's just impossible to describe the impact that absolute pure being has. So I understood. I mean, I was in tears. I got it. I got what the devotion was all about. My ego was back pretty quick. It took a while to sort it all out, but you get the picture. Just like Sadhguru, his content are more of how to live life versus what is life. Of course, he has spoken about it, but doesn't seem to be the main course. No, it's not with him. Yeah, he's more of the in the world karma yoga approach, because he does enormous work. I mean, his charitable organizations, I mean, just enormous, the amount of stuff he does around the world. So that is more of his focus. He talks a little bit about the non-dual, but that is not the thrust of it. Lisa, Do wisdom and ego share the same characteristics and that they are each aspects of ourselves? Um, hmm. uh, no, they're not. The ego is not an aspect of you, right? It is an illusion, right? There is no ego. It's not a true aspect. It's the mistaking of an aspect of you as a separate entity, a separate functioning entity. Yeah? So the ego isn't an aspect of you because it doesn't exist. It is a thought and nothing more. It is imagining yourself to be something you are not. And so that imagination can't be an aspect of you because it exists only as an image in the mind. But you do exist, obviously. You couldn't have an illusion if there wasn't somebody there to be deluded, right? And so it is just a thought. So the ego is just the sense of a personal self. And it's just that voice you hear in your head that says, I want, I need, I'm lonely, I'm lacking, I'm in trouble, I'm afraid, I'm going to die. That I is the ego. It doesn't even have to be arrogant. It can be, but it doesn't have to be arrogant or conceited. It can be seen quite demure. It can even be spiritual, very humble, right? But if there's still a sense of a me there, right? Well, then that is ego. But that sense of a me is the illusion. That's the only illusion. Everything else is fine. Everything else is an aspect of consciousness. Use the metaphor of the mirage in the desert, right? I see the mirage and there's water and beautiful people sipping Mai Tais. I need to get there. I'm in the desert, right? Well, the desert's here, right? The heat, the sand, the sun bearing down, right? My thirst, the heat rising off the sand, making the distortions. That's all here. The mirage isn't, right? So all of this is here. Life is here. The body is here. Emotions are here. Thoughts are here. Stuff is happening. The ego isn't. The ego is the thought that there really is an oasis there. There really is a self there. No, there isn't. Oh, there's Lisa inviting everybody to gpwalsh.com for a free guided meditation. Bless your heart, Lisa. Without Lisa, I don't think anybody would ever know who I was. If you're free, Tuesday, 1 p.m. On Om Times Radio. The Flow of Enlightenment is the radio show. You can also get it on Podbean. It's available on iHeartRadio now, right? I think it's also available on iTunes as a podcast after the fact, but it's live on Tuesdays. We do have a call-in number, so you can call in and ask questions. So details on the website to join in. Right, good. Thank you, Lisa, reminding me to tell people about stuff. And oh yes, the five more days of my 10 days of tapping is happening in the private Facebook group, which is just Facebook/groups/GP Walsh. If you're not a member, please become a member. I invite everybody from the Enlightened World Network to stop in for the 10 days of tapping. I still do some EFT work with people. I'm also doing a training on it because it's a very, very simple and a very gentle way for us to help each other out of the of the pit of the ego and into our true beings. Mary Sykes, to everyone new here, you're experiencing a very calm, patient, loving, and extraordinary teacher. Oops, glad you joined. Welcome and please share. Now I'm blushing. Okay. The message is in the presentation as well. I can be gentle and loving because the Spirit has been very gentle and loving with me, even when I didn't deserve it. It has also been rough. I've been knocked up a bit when my sense of self-importance got a little bit out of hand. Um, life life made short work of that, the hot soup in your lap, the standing in front of the audience with your zipper down or something. Um, but it's always loving. The touch of God is always loving. It's never harsh, even when it seems that way. Jay says, I just don't get the same vibe for Amma that and Sadhguru that I get from Eckhart, GP, Muji, Ajahn, Gangaji. Right. So good. So you're in the right place. I agree. If you've suffered enough, brings you weary soul and your broken heart to this place. GP will welcome you with open arms and answers. Beautiful. Oh, I invited my friend Jesse. That was his name you read. Oh, thank you, Carrie. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. Sometimes people say stuff and they've actually made a comment like 20 minutes before and something on here, and I don't have the context. Faith, hello to you. Christine, gosh, I almost turned off my Facebook notifications to avoid angst and hurt ego. I'm so glad I didn't. I would have missed this and the reminders and messages. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. Yeah, I guess there is one reason to leave Facebook notifications on. I can't think of many, but then this is a vehicle through which truth can genuinely express itself. Right. Beautiful. Hello from Donegal, Ireland. Hi, Positive Paddy. As you can tell, my ancestors came from Ireland. Patricia, fresh air that blows the cloud away and takes me home. Thank you very much, dear G. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, GP, forever the constant gardener. Thank you, Janet. Faith, I feel that it is time for me to surrender the ego from a place of love. Do I need a guru to do that with him, her? Because I heard in different spiritual teaching, they do that through or with a teacher. Yes. Yes, you do. The ego can't smell its own breath. It's just a fact, right? And sometimes you just have to confess to the guru. And the guru is but a manifestation of the truth of you, right? It is you being reflected back to you. It all comes back to you. But when I believe myself to be a separate entity, right? That's the ego. That's all there is to it. My belief that I'm separate from God, that there's something other than the infinite one. You can't have anything more than infinite, right? God is absolutely infinite and everywhere except here. This little outline of a body, God's not here. Well, the infinite is infinite. Life is life. You don't have a life, you are life. So sorry. I keep forgetting my phone wants to tell me there's notifications, right? So it's just that a sense of separation, right? Now the ego just steps into the middle of that, the guru. And remember, the guru is simply a Sanskrit word, and it means one who dispels darkness and helps you see what you're blind to, what you cannot see. Right? And all sorts of different ways of doing that, but ultimately it's to come to see that you're not who you thought you were, and that the guru represents more of you than you do, right? And it's simply this identification. Now that can come through books, it can come through conversation, it can come through a satsang like this. Whenever you are genuinely, wholeheartedly wanting to transcend the ego, that is, see its unreality, that's how you transcend it. You don't get rid of it because there's not anything really to get rid of, right? You see it for what it is. So you don't have to kill the ego or destroy the ego because there's nothing there to destroy. You see that it's nothing. We don't have to destroy Darth Vader, right? He doesn't exist except in the imagination of George Lucas, which he shared with us, right? Which made it for a very great story. But we don't really have to kill off or redeem Darth Vader because he doesn't actually exist. Your ego is simply a character in this movie you have called your life. And now you're feeling the weight of it, the identification with it. And the identification with it is what causes all suffering. You're feeling that. You're feeling that sense of ugh. You're feeling the confinement. You know, this little container I'm in of the false self, it's really uncomfortable, right? These shoes don't fit anymore. And that is it, the awakening itself. It's not the precursor to it. It is the awakening. You're waking up, right? Knowing something inside you knows, I want to be love. What knows they want to be love is love. What can recognize love other than love? What can recognize truth other than truth? Well, I can't recognize the truth. What can recognize consciousness other than consciousness? What can see God other than God? Now you're on the path. And yes, somebody to guide you, right? Somebody that you can actually talk to and can point stuff out to you is critical for the most part. But not everybody has. Ramana Maharshi, Stephen Jourdain, there have been a few people that have had just a spontaneous awakening. It's just happened. It was just, the fruit was ripe and it dropped from the tree, right? So you never say anything must happen, because now I think, oh, I don't have a guru. Oh, I'm not going to, no. The recognition, the awakening that's taking place will lead you to exactly the right one. And, exactly, and you'll know it. You'll just know it. Your heart will resonate, and it may not happen right away. It may start with a book, right? Just an insight, right? I'm remembering a Bible quote or story from your youth, or if you're from the West, or from the Quran or whatever, right? But know this: the awakening's already happened. If you didn't, you wouldn't. If it didn't, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be asking these questions. You wouldn't be wanting to overcome the ego, because you would be the ego, and you wouldn't be able to see it. The ego can't smell its own breath, right? Now you're smelling its breath and go, whoa, whoa, wow, take a mint, buddy. So, Kiran, to answer your question, Alabama. Thanks, Kiran. Mary, Hemonk, gee, growing a beard again? You're beautiful either way, to be honest. I guess a little. No, I haven't been. I've been enjoying not having it. Beginning to look kind of like old and like a Noah or something, right? Especially with my COVID hairdo. Jay, blessed to have you, G. I'm blessed to have you, Jay. I got your Sleep and Allowing Life audio bundles. Oh, great. Fantastic. Thank you for your presence with us here. So precious. I finally have my website up. I actually have a store on there where you can buy some of the meditation collections. My music, which people have asked me about, is actually available for sale. I have 3 albums up there, and one of the albums I recorded 20 years ago. I was still living in New York, and I was still playing a lot. I was a gigging musician at that time, and I even sing on it. It's back when I was kind of the singer-songwriter kind of thing. So those are all available at gpwalsh.com. You can also find out about the flow of enlightenment. You can find out about what is it? What did I call it? Tap 21. Yeah, gpwalsh.com/tap21. Or if you're interested in getting into my my EFT training. I'm training people how to work with others and work with yourself. It's a deepening, but it's also at another level. And those of you who have already taken it, you already graduated from it. I emailed you a coupon, so you get it at a reduced rate. So that starts in another week. So you got a week to get into it. Just trying to get my plugs in here for the things that actually make me a living, so I can continue to do stuff like this for free, and the 10 days of tapping and the like. So let's see. This has been so insightful. Thank you, Christina. So glad you're here. David and Elaine, such a wonderful sense of peace and contentment is known being here in Satsang with everyone, listening quietly, without questions at the moment, but hearing that which is so familiar. Deep thanks, GP. Oh, thanks to you guys. Beautiful, beautiful. 99 Sanchez, hello, GP. One radical implication of oneness may be that at some point we will all be experiencing being tortured in Nazis' camps. At some point, experience everything. No, that experience has already been had. We experience freedom from that, right? And whether it be that particular flavor or a different one, we all have had suffering. Suffering is universal, right? You don't need to re-experience all of those things. You don't need to re-experience all your past lives or any of that kind of stuff. The moment you know who you are, none of that belongs to you anymore. That was all the dream. We don't have to reenact the dream. We wake up from it. You return to your true being. You return to yourself, and you realize that the whole thing has been a dream. You were never incarnated ever. All of it. No more substance to it than the night dream. That's your freedom. That's your liberation. Himag, gee, I know that there's no I or myself to begin with, but I find myself trying to realize and remember the truth again and again. Not talking about the high that one gets from awakening, yes, but just the mere fact that you get after it. You learn after it, yes. The realization is the serum's been injected, buddy. Right? It's still got some work to do, right? And it's going to bring things up, right? A subtle thing that it brings up, pride of knowledge, right? Oh, I know now. I know. The self doesn't go, oh, I know now. God doesn't get up and go, wow, I know I'm God. Boy, am I good. Right? God doesn't do that, right? So just let it deepen and let yourself be made wise as to how the mind functions, how we keep getting caught in that web again and again and again. And eventually, the little fish will push his way through the net and you'll be free forever. Right? But it's okay. It's got to colonize the whole system, right? Your body mind has been acting out according to a certain pattern. Not just this lifetime, but 4 lifetimes. The same thing, a different pattern, right? Because it was a different body, it was a different experience. But the identification has been identical. There's no difference. Now you're identified with this form. See, like, this is what I am, right? Well, it's not what you are, right? And so the realization of that, which you've had, right? The clouds have parted, right? But now the clouds are back, right? Don't identify with the clouds. Okay, just deepen it. Just deepen it. And it's okay if you have to remember it 1,000 times. So what? You were practicing being who you weren't, right? Millions of times, right? it's it's not going to go like this. Thank God you don't have to go through another 10 million lifetimes to get it, because it's the truth. It just cuts right through the darkness, right? Expels the darkness and reveals yourself as you've always been. But at this point, rarely is it the kind of thing like a Ramana Maharshi where it was just boom, it was done in a minute. I mean, it took Buddha um, 6 years after he even decided he needed to do it, right? It took Christ time. Why? Because it had to be grasped and integrated. It needed to dissolve and kind of overthrow the false king, the false god that had been pulling the strings and running the system. But it's overthrown by seeing didn't actually exist. It was a belief. Right? So it's okay. All of these things, in fact, you have to remember, it'll keep you humble. It'll keep you vigilant. Right? And we all have to be vigilant constantly. And in fact, the closer you get to realization, the more vigilant you have to become, because the mind ups the ante. That's when the devil shows up with his temptations, right? Mara and her daughters, or the devil saying, if you're the Son of God, come on, you're hungry. Turn these stones into bread, right? If you are the Son of God, buy my doubt and then prove it to yourself that you can change those stones into bread. Right? Ooh, subtle temptations, right? Both he and Buddha transcended them. Right? Susan, making mistakes, know better, continue to make them. Habits snowballing to problems. Meditation is peace. Despite envisioning differently, indifference, resistance to activity. Why does meditation peace seem to be making me even more complacent? Resistance. Thank you for all you have shared. It isn't. What's happening is that as a meditation, a genuine inquiry is going on. You are, even imperceptibly, even not knowing it, you are beginning to disidentify with the you thought you were. And with it, that's all those ambitions and aspirations and desires and beliefs, loves, hates, the entire structure of the human ego, which is made up of a bunch of beliefs and habitual thoughts. Those are falling away, right? They simply don't have the luster anymore, right? The gold is not shiny anymore. They're not shiny objects. That can feel as if I'm losing an interest in life. Be patient. It's a temporary condition, right? Life will explode at some point because you are life. What you're not is falling away. And you can tell it's falling away because it just isn't interesting anymore. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do anything. Well, that is, I don't want to do anything that had to do with who I used to think I was. And that's okay. It's all right. You're not going to end up, a babbling idiot sitting in the corner, all day long, right? It's not going to happen because life is activity. Right? You're just coming to realize that you're not the doer of life. You're the witness of life. And so that all of the motivation of the ego seeping from the system is what we can feel as kind of a resistance. So be with that feeling. Just feel it. Notice it. It's okay. Let yourself be whatever you're feeling. That's the nature of awareness. It's totally allowing. Right? So you just allow it to be there. And do what you need to do. If there's some work that has to get done, just do it and then let it go. That's karma yoga. No attachment to the results. Just do what's in front of you in the moment. Don't look to it to give you anything. Don't look for any satisfaction in it, right? And you'll find just this beautiful flow begins. You begin to notice that life has always been flowing, that life has always been doing it, that you've never been the doer of life, that was just the ego taking credit for something it never did. Like the circus clown that runs out to take the bow when after the acrobats have finished performing. It didn't do anything. It just likes to take credit for it later. You know, the spontaneous arising of something, an action takes place, 5 or 6 thoughts later, there's a thought that says, I did that. It was already done. Yeah. Oh, I had a great thought. The thought just appeared. I had a great idea. Right? It just appeared. You didn't create it. You can't take credit for it. I can't take credit for one word that comes out of my mouth. If I do, whoa, wham, the cosmic 2x4, right? And I welcome it. Right? That's part of the vigilance. Right? So, wow. Yeah. So does that help? Does that help, Suzanne? Or Susan, not Suzanne. At first I didn't recognize the voice. Yeah, good. Holistic Concierge. Oh, that's a great name. Thanks for a wonderful satsang. Super satsang. Yeah, it's about time to bring it to a close. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Enlightened World Network, Dr. Ruth Anderson, who invited me to be sharing satsang, which I will be doing regularly now. Next week, I don't think there's going to be one, a schedule conflict, because I will be in retreat with my own teacher, charging the batteries, as it were. So I will. There are some questions. I think I'm going to try to make a video to answer some questions, so you have something. So I had incredible, terrible fear to go deeper, to quit the mask to the ego. I always distract myself from truth. I have fear to love like I'm traumatized, broken, huge pain in the body. Oh, Susan said thank you. Good. Yes. Yes. Go through the fear. Feel it totally. Embrace it. Okay, beat me up, kill me, right? I want the truth. I want the truth more than I want to avoid the fear. Right? Just it takes courage, because the fear is actually the mind trying to keep you from knowing. There's not actually anything to be afraid of, right? And really, if you examine it, okay, I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? Ooh, I'm afraid of being humiliated. I'm afraid of looking small. I'm afraid of looking stupid, right? All ego, all how I appear to others, right? Look at the fear, pick it up, hold it, right? I can hear in your voice, you want to get away from it. And of course, that's the nature of fear. We want to get away from the fear. But this is not a fear you can run away from. This is not a tiger that you can hope you can outrun, or at least get to your car and shut the door so he can't get you. You can't run from this because it's here. What do you do then? You turn around. Trying to run from what's here is the trauma, because you can't run and you can't fight. Right? You can't run away or fight thoughts. Right? So it is traumatizing. Right? So what do you do? Okay, if I can't get away, I'm going to be with it. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be with it. I'm going to face the dragon. Because I know the dragon is standing there. It's guarding. Traditionally in mythology in the East, or in the West anyway, the dragon was the guardian. It guarded the virgin, maiden, which stand for beauty, your inherent innocence and truth, and gold, wealth, abundance, my true value, my true self, my infinite value. And the dragon guarded those. Now, the dragon had no use for either. It guarded because simply that's what it did. There was no benefit to it. The dragon represents the ego. It represents our fears. And we have to slay it or tame it. Actually, slaying it or taming it are both not quite accurate. We need to see it for what it is. Nothing. It's nothing. You just walk through it. Walk through it. You may be in terror as you're walking through it, but recognize that that terror is a trick. There's nothing there to be afraid of. All right, I got to call it now. Thank you all. I want to hear the truth more than I want to avoid the fear. That's it. When that happens, it is a short road to realization. Thank you all. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you so much for this invitation. I hope you guys like it over there in the Enlightened World Network. I know the non-dual message is kind of different. Many people have not heard it before. I hadn't. I'd gone through metaphysics and various kinds of psychological techniques and that sort of stuff. It came out of New Thought, which was one of the first places. And I just remember running across I Am That from Nisargadatta, and my world changed forever. That it was Zen, and between those, just everything changed. It's like, just the clarity emerged. So thank you all. Thank you. Replays are available on YouTube. They'll be available on Facebook as well, but as you know, Facebook things scroll off the bottom after a while. So thank you all. I love you. Namaste.